Okay, continuing on with my 2015 article on topics for music education praxis. I'll leave a link below to it. Introduction, a vignette. On a warm April morning, I walked through Tudeck Park, Pennsylvania, USA with my 8-month-old son. We begin our walk, and the primary sounds we hear are those of children singing their joyous rhythmic songs. Songs of excited sliding and swinging on playground equipment, and sounds of playing soccer. Children running and kicking the black and white ball into a small net. The pieces of play equipment that have their own sounds, squeaking, swishing. There are also sounds of adults talking. A family has a reunion under a pavilion's wall-less rooftop. Adult conversation and childish sounds intermingle. The rumble of cars and the singing of birds underlie these sounds, but are present nonetheless. My aim lies deeper in the park, since my child is too young to use the playground. As we walk down the hill, the sounds of birds and squirrels become more prominent, while human sounds fade. Dogs are barking further into the park, and we sit shoeless in the grass under a newly budding tulip tree, somewhat but not completely away from the human sounds. Here we listen to the music of the park, and I try to sing some of the sounds I hear, and my son also sings in his low monotone. We touch the dirt, grass, the tree's trunk, branches, and the buds emerging from the tree as we crawl on the ground and sing. It's possible that many people walking by would not call our songs music, though everybody, mostly dog walkers, stops to say hi to my son, and he sings back in his low droning da, da, often crescendoing at the end for emphasis. The experience of nature's music is a learning experience for me and my son, where my aim is to cultivate ecological consciousness, feeling a sense of place, of the environment, of non-human life, the ecology of where we live. Nature regularly exhibits an abundance of musicking, from the songs of birds to the rustling of leaves to the cicadas' recurring summer song. Educationally, children benefit when the sonic soundscape becomes a prominent part of their learning. Teachers and students benefit by being connected to the places they live. As Seneca famously said, all art is but imitation of nature. The music of nature is an immeasurable source of inspiration for musicking of all kinds. The alternative to a music education that considers nature's musicking, where people, teachers and students, do not consider the sonic environments of the places where they stand, seems to be missing something essential. So, that was the very first part. I had a reflection there, something that would not necessarily be considered music education even by many scholars, right? It didn't happen in a school. There were no grading, no curriculum, no assessment, no behavioral objective, no applications to write up students and send them to detention if they're bad, no list of rules or rewards. The only reward was being there. So this is the type of music education that occurs with non-professional music educators, that is, normal adults, parents, uncles, aunts, grandparents, anybody, right? Just two people, one person learning and one person knowing a little bit more. So by starting this, I am making a statement to my field, right? That I am looking at something broader. Eco-literate music pedagogy is broader. Eco-literate actually is a fairly narrow scope term that I'm broadening, right? I think it started out broader, but a lot of people today consider it very scientific, maybe even scientistic, right? Where we reduce all experience to scientism, of some science in some, way. But art itself, right? Music is often considered narrowly as something humans do, right? For aesthetic pleasure or aesthetic sublimity, right? And pedagogy is often just the practical aspects. A curiosity. At the start of this paper, a curiosity rose. Facing global ecological crises, can music education matter? This is an ethical question, one that is motivated by the music education philosopher David Elliott's challenging title, Music Matters. One reason Elliott's book was an influence for me as a music teacher was that he contested our field's aesthetic assumptions about the goodness of music. But what could these goods be or values be? Good for what and whom? And when and how? For music education to matter, I believe it must be a good for human and non-human life on the planet. As music education philosopher Wayne Bowman suggested, music is inherently an ethical activity, and that theorizing must begin with music as a social act and a social fact. Recent concerns with global ecological crises are inherently social issues that I argue can and should be addressed in music classrooms. Does music education matter? If it cannot be harnessed to tackle one of the greatest issues humans face? Does music education matter if teachers of all subjects stand by while our environment is destroyed and as a result our own lives and those of the children we teach? Why music education? Music adds uniquely to the ecological experience I described in my initial vignette. The experience represents what I call learning, but not necessarily music education. I argue for the possibility that music education has a unique opportunity to cultivate ecological consciousness, and music education for ecological literacy is an underdeveloped theme or concern, but an essential end for our pedagogy and curriculum. I also urge that music education for ecological ends are not only possible, but can be essential and meaningful. Moreover, I suspect that many music teachers have perhaps unwittingly developed ecological music lessons. Okay, we're stopping right there for the reading today, right there on just the third page, ecological literacy. And as I stopped before the last section, talked a little bit, right? In this section of curiosity, this serves as like a general introduction, right? Placing myself within the praxial movement. So David Elliott's ethical questions, which still have never seemed to be fully enacted, and maybe we're just too anthropocentric. And Wayne Bowman, who is now retired, right, about music as a social act and a social fact, right? It is social. And one of our greatest, you can ask kids, one of the greatest concerns they have is whether we're even going to have a planet that supports human life. What's that quality of life going to be if so much is destroyed, right? And then finally, that music adds uniquely to ecological experience. So, and therefore, music education has unique opportunities to add to this. Now, I see very often that ecological literacy has been binned in schools to science classes, right? STEM, or whatever biology classes are offered at the schools. And so it's really problematic. However, music teachers sometimes unwittingly develop these lessons. You know, for instance, if you're in high school and you're teaching Dave Maslanka, and his compositions are always so ecologically infused with meaning, and you really want to make these experiences meaningful for kids, but also for them to express the meaning that Dave Maslanka meant in his compositions, right? It's kind of hard to do without developing some type of ecological aspects, having some type of lesson in there.